I have people writing me 2, 3, 4 times a week telling me, Pastor, I think I've committed a sin that is too great for God to forgive. Why do they believe that? Because they don't read the word that tells them the truth, that God will forgive even the greatest of sins. He holds nothing against you today. He loves you. See, but if you don't believe that, then you'll walk around with fear that I'm going to lose my soul, I'm going to be damned, because you're thinking He won't forgive. See, you're being lied about concerning God. I had a wonderful testimony that came in yesterday. A lady told me, Pastor, I want to thank you that you saved my marriage, and here's how. She said, Pastor, I grew up in a church that told me that speaking in tongues was of the devil. And that I shouldn't speak in tongues, I'll lose my mind, and to stay away from all those that talk in tongues. But then I started to meet some other Christians that were telling me about tongues and that I needed to be baptized in the Spirit and speak in this heavenly language. And she says, I got scared. I didn't know what to do because one church, my previous church, said don't do it, and these new Christians or these other Christians are saying to do it. So what do I do? So I decided to Google speaking in tongues, and there I landed on your article. And I'm telling you, Pastor, you explained it so clear. You defeated all the arguments that the other church was telling me, and when I read that, I now believed that is for me. And then I got prayed for, and Pastor, I began to speak in tongues, but God used the baptism of the Spirit to save my marriage because our marriage was in trouble. But through the baptism of the Spirit, God turned our marriage around, and now our marriage is saved. We're filled with the Spirit, and we're speaking in tongues because of. Now, here's my point. It's not enough that you hear about God, but what if you hear the wrong thing about Him? You're hearing one thing about God when He's someone different. See, so it's not enough that we have to hear the truth about Him. So the knowledge of the truth about God is the first step to creating faith. But the second step is found in verse 16. It says, but not all the Israelites accepted the good news. Can you all say accepted? So now here's the thing. You have to make a decision to accept the good news. Like this lady who wrote to me. She once accepted the presentation of her church about tongues, which were incorrect. But then I presented the other evidence and told the truth about it, and she accepted that and got blessed. I don't know if you realize, life is a series of making decisions on what you believe in. You ever think about it? What do you believe? You're always making decisions. President Obama, for example, he's presented his plan for job creation. How many of y'all know? In Congress, there's going to be a bunch of them saying, I like that plan. We need to vote for it. And there's going to be a bunch of them saying, no, we don't want that plan. Someone could present the plan, but everyone still has to choose. We're always in the process of making decisions all the time. I choose to believe that, or I choose not to believe that. I do accept that. Oh, no, I don't accept that. We're always having to make decisions. And you know what? When it comes to faith, you have to make a decision. What do you believe? Do you believe God will forgive you even of your great sins? Do you believe God can deliver you from your habits? Do you believe God could heal you of your diseases? Do you believe God can prosper you and make you rich? Do you believe God can heal your marriage and turn your spouse around? Do you believe God could give you happiness and peace and remove that depression and the anxiety? Do you believe that? Well, I heard someone say that God won't. No. See, what are you hearing? You have to hear the truth, but then you have to make a decision. Will you accept it? Imagine going to that restaurant again. Let's go that illustration. You sit down in that restaurant and you see the sign that says food inspection passes. As you sit there, the waiter comes with a bloody apron with toilet paper stuck to the bottom of his shoe. You look at him. What do you want? You peek out and see the kitchen. You see flies swarming. At this point, you've decided, you know what? I'm not going to believe that paper. See, you reject it because something has persuaded you. I'm trying to show you in life we're always having decisions to make, not just in the natural, but with God. We face a problem, what will happen? What will God do? And you know what He'll do? Whatever you accept as far as the gospel is concerned. Whatever you accept from His word, that's what He'll do. But if you don't accept it, that even though He said He could do this, He won't. So we have to make a decision. Accept it. I'll accept the good news. I'll accept that promise. I'll accept what God said. But wait a minute, that brings us to our last point. James chapter 2. Turn there. James 2. I know you Bible school students, you know where we're headed on this one. James 2. So the first step is you need to have knowledge. The next step, you need to accept that knowledge that you received from God. But the third and final component that makes up faith is found here in James 2, verse 20. He says, "You foolish man, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was not our ancestor Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith was made complete by what he did." So what is the final component to faith? Action. So I'll prove it to you. If you believe that that chair is going to uphold you, you act on it. You sit down. But if you look and think, oh man, that chair looks like it's going to break, you don't act on it. If you don't think that restaurant is going to serve you healthy food, you're going to get botulism, you don't act, you don't eat. Do you understand? In our life, when we don't believe something, we show it by our action. We decide to do something. So in the end, are you ready? You can say all day long, I believe in the Lord, I believe in Him. But if your actions speak differently, then your faith is not complete. How many of y'all believe in Malachi 3:10? If you bring the tithe to the storehouse, God will open the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that you'll not have room enough for it. He'll rebuke the devourer. How many of y'all believe in Malachi 3:10? Let me see your hands. Come on, you believe in it. You believe God will bless you if you tithe, right? But friend, you can believe that, but if you're a cheapskate, then you don't believe. So in the end, genuine faith always produces action. So you can say you believe, but are you doing something about it? Let me show you the deception of believing and even accepting certain things but not acting on it. Go to John 8. John 8. This is powerful. John 8. John 8, verse 30. John 8, verse 30. It says, even as Jesus spoke, many put their faith in Him. How could they put their faith in Him? Because He spoke. He gave them knowledge, did He not? He told them something and they said, we believe in Him. They accepted it. So you know what they did? They had the two first components. They heard and they accepted. But watch what happens. The next verse, verse 31. To the Jews who had believed Him, Jesus said, so stop for a moment. Who is Jesus going to be talking to? Unbelievers? No, He's talking to those who believe. Now what does He tell them? Jesus said to them, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Now notice this. If you want to really be, can y'all say really? Really implies there's a false and there's a genuine. So when He says, if you hold to my teaching, you are really my disciples. You mean it's possible to believe and not be a disciple?